Well, how's everybody doing? My name is Liz. I'm a physical therapist and I'm with Blue Ridge Biomechanics. So I know that we're going to talk about back pain or how to keep your back healthy. Who in here has back pain right now? We got a couple. Who in here wants to know about how to keep your back healthy, to not have pain? Perfect. We're going to go over both of those. What I'm going to do is, if you filled out that little piece of paper with your email address on you, I'm going to email you a little PDF of what exercises I went over today, just to make sure you guys got it. I'm also going to upload this video onto YouTube, and so you'll have access in case you want to watch it again. Okay? As long as you put your email on there, then you'll have access to it and you'll be able to find it. What I wanted to go over today was, one, a little bit of background of why people can have back pain, why it can persist, and why our body thinks it's a little bit different than the rest of our body. Because it's a little bit different than our knees, it's a little bit different than our hips. Our spine is pretty important. So going a little bit more into that, our body has a natural tendency to protect ourselves. So whenever we put our hand on a hot stove, we think pain, we take our hand away and we say, ouch, I'm not going to do that again because that hurt. Well, that pain response is to make sure you don't leave your hand on there and get even more burnt. It's to protect you, okay? And so a lot of people think pain, they think bad. This is terrible. I'm in pain now, which is true. Nobody likes to be in pain. However, it also is there to protect you, to make sure you don't do anything stupid. You don't do anything and leave your hand on that hot stove. It's the reason why we have it. If you don't have a pain response, some people are diabetic, they don't have a pain response in their feet. And so they have no clue if there's a rock left in there. And then all of a sudden they take their sock off and they say, oh my gosh, my sock is bloody. What happened? And you have a wound now. That's because they don't have a pain response for that to tell their brain, oh, there's a rock in my shoe, I should probably take it out. Okay? And so our body likes to protect our spine. We only have one of them. Okay? We have two knees, two shoulders, two hands, and so we only have one spine. It also houses a pretty important thing in our body, our spinal cord. Okay? And so if there's something that minorly goes wrong in your spine, you know that pain response? It's going to be heightened because it says protect. Oh no, our spine. This is important. So you know what happens whenever it says pain and response? Has anybody ever felt tightness in their back? Guarding? Those are those muscles locking down and saying, oh no, we can't move. We have to protect. We have to make sure everything's okay. Okay? Now, as I said, it's not like our hand on the hot stove that we only have one hand, it's not going to linger for that long. Our spine is very important, and so it wants to protect it. So do you think that guarding is going to stay around for a little bit longer until your brain actually knows it's okay? Probably so. Okay? And so whenever we go into what you do first for pain in your low back, it may actually be that there's nothing wrong with it. Have you guys ever thought about that? There's nothing wrong with my back and I have pain. It's the reason why you sometimes feel lingering of pain after you've moved your hand off that hot stove, or you have such a big pain response to a paper cut. Even a couple days later, you're like, oh my gosh, it was a small paper cut. Our pain responses in our body are different, and they're not always due to mechanical or chemical stress. It can be just our bodies wanting to protect something that's very important. Now, it probably started because something was mechanically or chemically wrong. But does it stay because something was mechanically or chemically wrong? Doesn't have to. Isn't that baffling? I've heard that so many times. It was told me in PT school so many times. Pain does not equal mechanical stress, does not equal chemicals in your body. Just take a moment and think about that. It's baffling. It's a protection. If your body thinks something is going to go wrong, then it will cause a pain. That's why now, instead of being able to put your hand on the hot stove, you feel the heat and you take your hand back. Protects you from even getting burnt. Right? Everybody's put their hand close to that hot stove.
So you're talking about muscle pain? You're not talking about nerve pain?
Anything. Any of the pain nerve pain, muscle pain, all of it. All of it can be there starting via a chemical response, aka you have inflammation, or mechanical change, you have a disc issue, you have a joint issue, you have something mechanically not functioning correctly. That is how it can start, but it doesn't mean that even a couple weeks later that it is still because of that fact. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And so that brings us into what we do if you have pain, and also how to make it stay away. So if you have pain, I have muscle guarding, whether it's due to it actually being hurt or due to its being guarded, do you think that I want to push that to move really, really hard? Like, do I want to stretch it a whole lot? You would think so, because it's like, oh, this is tight. You know, if you gently stretch it, it actually does a whole lot better than if you force into it and stretch it. And believe me, I've been there. Picked up a empty cardboard box, was down on the loading dock, couldn't move. My back was out, done. Today I carried in this 50-pound table, okay? Mechanically wrong, probably. Did it stay that way several weeks later? Probably not. But I did try to force and stretch it before I went to PT school. And you know what happened? It didn't get better. It got worse. If I could count how many times somebody came in, they're like, well, I've tried my stretches, I've tried to force it, it doesn't feel any better. You know, sometimes things don't need to get forced. It's like square peg, round hole. If you force it in there, it's not going to actually look right. Okay? And so the best way to make yourself feel better, to get that tightness down, and to also convince your body that things are okay, that it doesn't need to protect it, is to move into it gently and slowly. You know what's also great about that? It doesn't hurt whenever you're doing it that way. You actually make it feel better in the process. You know how many times I've had somebody come in and tell me, Liz, PT made me hurt. It's not supposed to. It can make you sore, like muscles are working, but it is actually supposed to cause pain? No, not really, not for most of the time, like 90% of the time. And then people are amazed after I give them a simple, easy stretch. They get up from the table and they can bend over forward almost to their toes. Am I forcing them to stretch hard? Nope. Am I making their body know that they can move and move gently and well? Yeah. You guys want to know what that stretch is? Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. So now I've got your attention. Okay? Because every single one of us have laid down on a table or laid down on the floor and been like, oh, if this thing can just stop. If it can just stop grabbing, stop catching. You guys know that feeling, I'm sure. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be in here listening to me. Okay? So that's the first exercise that we're going to go over, is how to gently stretch. I'm going to give you 2 of them, okay? Because not everybody fits in one box, okay? Then after you gently stretch, what do you think you need to do? Ideas? You need to stabilize. So now that you've got those muscles to calm down, now you need to bring something else to help support. Okay? Because if not, those same muscles that we just calmed down are going to kick back up and might kick back up with some fury. Okay? Depending on how bad your back pain is and how much guarding you have. Okay? And so what you do is you activate the muscles you want to help with protecting, the ones that you want to work whenever you're moving around doing and walking and going and moving. And that helps stave off that guarding tightness feeling of those big muscles in your back. Okay? So we're going to go over both of those right now, and then we're going to move into what you do to help keep it away. Sound good? All right. So the first exercise that I'm going to have you do, you're just going to lay on your back, and it's nice, super easy, and it's going to be probably one that you've done before. However, you might not have done it with this detail, okay? Is you're just going to bring one knee to your chest or both knees to your chest. However, do you think I want you to really hug those things as far as you can up to your chest? No. Now you understand why I talked about stretching. Because I want you just to very gently move it up and then relax it back. Gently move it up and relax it back. And so you're telling these muscles in your back, it's okay to chill. It's okay to calm down. And you're doing it nice and easy. You know what else is happening here? You're moving your joints of your spine as they sit together. Okay? You know what joints don't like? They don't like it when you hold. So if I'm going to stretch your knee, do you think I want to just like hold and stretch it? It's probably not going to feel so hot whenever I get done with it. It's going to make it feel more stuff. Versus if I move into it and out of it, then it's going to feel a whole lot better in that range. Same thing goes for your spine. Is that whenever you're in here, you come there and you come back out.
Are you pulling?
With my arms, I am.
How about your legs?
I'm actually letting them relax. Because sometimes our body, when we think about our legs actually starting to do something, our brain will kick back in that protection zone. And it'll be like, I can't do that. That's going to hurt my back. Okay? Or it can pull on your back in a different mechanical way and also make it hurt. And so nice and easy, I'm just using my arms. My fingers are clasped together behind my knee. And I'd rather not go above my knee because that can put stress on my knee if anybody has any knee issues. So if you go just right behind it, you just pull it up to your chest and then back down. And as you can see, this makes my low back bend in a non-gravity way, nice and easy. Okay?
If you're sitting on an airplane or something, can you do it like this?
You sure can. If you scoot your butt out a little bit, it'll actually even make it a little bit easier. Yep. So she's showing that if she even in sitting brings that knee up to the chest and comes back down. Yep. Does that one make sense? Does it also make sense on how and why I told you initially that you don't want to overstretch it? You want to move it nice and gently. You want to convince your back it's okay and nothing's wrong. Okay? Even if something is wrong, you're still moving gently in through it, and so it's not going to actually cause any more mechanical issues that are wrong, because if it's painful, you're not going to go into that range. Use pain as your guide. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, remember what I told you? You're going to stretch first, and then you're going to move into what? Stabilizing. I love it. Someone's been listening. So now you're going to go into stability. Okay? We have these lovely muscles in the front part of our stomach that we typically don't use too much. You know, because we sit a lot. We don't really need them for sitting. And when we stand, we can stand in nice ways that we don't have to use them. Okay? And so we're going to use these muscles here. Okay? The ones in the front more so today. And what you're going to do, you're actually press your back down into the table. Okay? Now, this is called a posterior pelvic tilt, aka my pelvis is rotating back. You can do this several different ways. Okay? Guess what? I only want one of those. So I could use my butt and lift up and press down with my feet. Do you think I want that? Nope. You know that's the hardest part that people can't kick off? Is when I want here, I only want here. Unless I want here and here. And then I'll make it known that I do. Okay? But if I only want here, do you think I want here? Nope. I only want here. And so if I'm wanting to round my back and push it into the floor, and I'm wanting to only use here, these legs should be nice and chill and relaxed. Okay? Not pushing into the floor, no pressure going down, no hamstrings, back of the thighs working. All should be here. If you have trouble doing that, you know what you can do? I love this trick. Makes me so happy, as you can probably tell. Take a deep breath in, and I want you to force that air out. What muscles do you feel working? These bad boys. And so you can do that same trick. When you're on your back, you take a deep breath in as you try to press that back into the table or into the floor. Okay? That kicks in here so much better because it's an accessory breathing muscle. Your obliques, these lovely guys that sit here on the side, they help whenever you breathe out. And so if you need help activating them, need help flipping on that light switch to get them to work, which a lot of people that I see with back pain, they don't know how to activate these muscles. We're not used to using them. That's how you get them to start working, is that you use your breath. What's the first thing we do whenever we're born? We breathe. It's a very primitive function. It's hard to override it. And so you use it to your advantage. Use what you got. And the more that you force that air out, guess what? The more it has to work. So you know what I keep in my clinic? Straws. If you breathe out forcefully out of a straw, you know what you have to use? Your stomach. You got to use those muscles. And so if you have trouble with activating these guys, go grab a straw. Breathe out through it. Lay on your back. You'd be amazed. I have people come back in and they're like, Liz, I can't believe that straw worked. I'm like, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? It's magic tricks. Okay, so we have your stretch where you're doing that kneaded chest, nice and easy and gentle. And then we have your stability where you're using and activating these muscles. Okay, that is the base core stomach exercise for a lot of the other exercises that you've been taught or know how to do. If you are doing any of the machines out there in the gym, you know what I want you thinking about? These guys. Just because you're doing leg exercises does not mean that you do not need to use here to stabilize. Everything comes from your trunk. Breathe out, make them work, then do your exercise. You can make every single exercise out there in the gym, well, except maybe like calf raise. That one you don't need quite as much. But you can make the majority of them a core workout too. You just have to think about it that way. Any questions on that part?
So in that order that you described.
Straight up in that order. Any other questions?
Well, I always thought that the worst thing you could do is to take to your bed and not move.
That is correct. Yes, you need to move, you need to get out and go, okay? But from the looks of y'all, I don't think that you guys are gonna do that. Yep, bed rest is not something that you need to do. Moving, starting to get that exercise and going. Yep. Anything else? Cool. So now that you're moving into that you are feeling better and you want to make sure that it stays away, you now look more globally at what all is happening, okay? You look and make sure that your legs are moving right. You look and see if you're moving funky in your arms, because you know if I don't reach up high enough with my arms, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my back. You know if my legs don't support me well enough, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my back to help me, okay? And so it's where we compensate a ton. And it's where we tend to move and manipulate, okay? So I'm a task-specific person. So I have I need to reach that plate, I'm going to get that plate. I need to walk out that door, I'm going to walk out that door, okay? How I get it done, I don't sometimes think about that all the time, okay? And I feel like some of you guys could probably think about that. So if you're going to get on a machine, you're going to get that machine done because you know it's supposed to be good for you. You're going to walk. You're going to walk because you know that somebody told you it was good for you. Or you need to move that piece of furniture because you got to get the rug out from underneath of it. Okay? You got to do something, and you do it to get it done, right? Do we always think about how we actually move in those ways?
I'm picking something up. I always think about where I'm going to do it.
Good. Perfect. What about picking up a pencil off the floor?
It all depends. I mean, I can bend over and pick it up off the floor.
Good, because you shouldn't have to think about a pencil.
Yeah.
You should just move over, bend over, and pick it up. Good. A lot of times whenever we're doing more of our typical tasks, we don't think about it as much. Like walking, and sometimes we can walk with a limp and we don't really even know it, unless somebody actually tells you, hey, do you know you're limping? No, I just slowly started walking like this. Nobody actually ever told me. I guess my hip might get tight. I guess my ankle might be tight. Okay? And that can make you walk funny and can upset your back. You know what also can happen is that we start walking more with our calves versus our butt. Our butt is very important for our back. You know what helps our butt work? Our core, our stomach muscles, our trunk control. So we either pattern in two different ways when it comes to our trunk to our legs. We pattern either with using our abs and our core and our glutes, or we pattern with using more so our back muscles and our hip flexors. Okay? And so if I pattern more so here, then I'm probably going to walk a little bit more so with my calves and have a little bit more bounce in my step versus actually taking a longer step and pushing myself off using here. I know you guys have all seen people that have a lot of bounce in their step, or the people that have massive calves. You're like, oh my gosh, how are your calves that big? Look at their butt. Their butt's probably really small because they're using other muscles around that. Okay? We need both of them. We don't want to be all butt and no calves. We don't want to be all calves and no butt. Okay? But using our butt is critical and key to supporting our back. But also to make our butt work a little bit more is our core, our trunk control. Okay? So the first exercise I'm going to go over is to help with using your butt with your trunk. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on those and how they can relate some of this to their life about thinking about different movements? What now?
Until I see what you do.
All right. So the first exercise, I'm sure that some of you guys have done this, especially if you've been to PT. I also get that, oh, Liz, I never thought about it doing it that way. So you're going to do a butt raise or a bridge, a hip thrust, tomato, tomato, all the same. You're going to press down through your heels, and you're going to raise your butt up. Now, the typical things that I see that people do within this exercise is they push their feet away, and they raise up. I'm using all these muscles, and really not using much up here. Okay? It looks the same, though, doesn't it? So if I do this versus this, I'm still raising my butt, but are you using your butt? That's the key, okay? And so note whenever you're raising it, you want to use it, okay? That whole calf thing, calf versus butt, now it's quads versus butt. Which one are you going to use? Typically, we'll default to here if we don't like to use our butt for one reason or another, okay? And so you'll raise up, you'll have to keep this nice and tight. Otherwise, you'll start arching your back, okay? That doesn't help my core control. It also makes these big muscles in my back use and function, and that's what I'm raising myself with instead of my butt, okay? And so making sure that you're raising, using here and here put together to help with that retraining of that patterning, okay? You know what else this does? Is it helps you to support your trunk and move your hips. Let me say that again. It helps you support your trunk and move your hips. What do you do when you're walking? You support your trunk, you move your hips. What do you do whenever you're going to bend over and get something? You support your trunk, you move your hips. This is the same exercise as this. Bet you guys didn't put those two and two together, did you? Most people don't. In my high-level athletes, they don't put those two and two together until I'm like, think about your bridge, think about your butt raise. They're like, oh. Then their squat immediately improves. Did I give them more strength? I didn't change their strength that quick. But I did give them motor control. If you can understand how to move through here that way, it will help you whenever you stand up from a chair. It'll help you when you squat down to pick something up off the floor. It'll also help you when you're on your knees and you're gardening or doing something else, reaching to cabinets. Getting your body moving where you're supporting your trunk and you're moving your hips.
And when you were lying down, you were pushing, you were arching up by digging in your heels.
Just press down through your heels.
So that was the key thing that puts you in the right position.
and also using my abs, my stomach muscles and core, and not just driving through my back. And so I'm making sure that this stays nice and still, and you can see where I'm pivoting off of my hips. I'm not driving with my back. Because then it's these guys are moving together versus stability movement. It's subtle. You wouldn't think it would make that big of a difference. You wouldn't think it would matter that much. But it really does. Part of what happens whenever you have back pain is that those muscles guard, right? We talked about it, and how they want to protect you. However, that turns off other things that should be working. However, it wants to make you not work. It wants to make you hang on a second. Let's make sure everything's okay. And usually we're a little stubborn and we keep on pushing through until it really tells you to stop. That's when we actually seek help, whenever it really makes us stop. Then our motor control got tossed out the window because we learned how to use these muscles for everything to stabilize our back instead of our trunk as a cylinder. And so using that trunk as a cylinder, moving at your hips, it not only increases strength control for it, but you're also retraining your motor control. It's the ability for my hands to flip back and forth. I know what it's doing even when I'm not looking at it. It's the same reason why you have to look at your feet whenever you're done that step class. You don't know what's happening to your foot unless you're staring at it. How do I know what's happening to my trunk unless I retrain that? Same thing, it's just harder to see. You have to feel it. Question?
When you're standing, to get the same movement, are you pushing on your heels to lean over?
You can. I wouldn't wait all the way back, but whenever you stand back up, you can push through your heels. So let's just have everybody do it. Let's have you scooch your chair back, make sure you can stand up. And I want you're going to go from sitting or from standing back to sitting. And I want you to think about your trunk is nice and controlled. You're going to allow yourself to bend over forward from your hips. Stick that butt out and sit down. You should feel your abs and your core working to help you. Now let's have you stand back up, push through those heels, come on back up. You should feel your butt working more when you do that. Let's have everybody go down and back up again for me. Now you'll notice whether you want to arch your back or not. Do you want to do this as you go down? Or what I nickname stripper booty? Because every one of you guys will remember that now because it's something so outlandish. And so I don't want you to have a stripper booty. I want it to be nice and controlled going down. I don't want it to be a segment of you moving here and here. This is nice and still and controlled. Bring your butt back, bring your butt forward. Everybody up again. That feel different that time when you thought about controlling here a little bit? As I said, it's subtle, but it really makes a big difference. The other thing that I see whenever I'm looking around the room is that people are allowing their knees to dive in. You know what your butt does? What another direction, what it's supposed to do? It controls these things. And so whenever my knees come out, you know what that makes happen? It makes my butt work more. And so even in this bridge, you can make your butt work more by knees out. And it will decrease how much stress you have actually going into those knees. It's a good thing to have your knees go out whenever you go down. See how your knees want to cave in a little bit? Yeah. And allowing yourself to lean forward, because if you try to stay too straight up, it's not going to allow you to use your butt as much. There you go. Everybody wants to be so straight up whenever we start moving and whenever we think about getting up and down. Everybody leans forward. It's okay. Just as long as you have that control through here, you can use your butt. If you try to stay too upright, you're going to only use these guys. You're not actually going to use your butt because that's not the movement that you're trying to get. You're just straightening your knees versus bringing your hips forward and back. Okay? That goes for squats. That goes for up and down.
Up and down, knees should be
Knees out, feet not so much. So there's a differentiation. Because if you just move your feet out, your knees will technically be in the same position that they were, or even more likely to come in. So let's snag this chair. So if I'm going to stand up, I want my knees to be out a little bit more. Okay? Now, they're not like here. I'm not plieing like a ballerina. They're just slightly out. But if my feet are way out as well, then I'm going to be more likely to have them dive in and less likely for my butt to actually work. So they can come in, knees just come out a little bit. Okay? Now, it's not that I want every single up and down to be knees out, let's stand up. But you can actually make this an exercise. It's a squat. It's a modified squat. Okay? I've had so many people be like, I don't want to stand up and sit down. That's not really a good exercise. You know how many athletes I have do that? They can't do a full squat. So I make them sit on the bench in between times. Same dang thing. Sit to stand. Different name, same exercise. Modified squat. Okay? And so it's using trunk control, it's using glutes, using your legs, and making it a functional task. This is a great exercise. Okay? It's the same exercise as the bridge, just in a different way gravity is affecting you. Same movement, same mechanics. I'm straightening between my shoulders and my knees. I'm coming back down. That makes sense to everybody? Let's have everybody stand up and sit down again for me one last time. Did everybody feel your butt working this time? That's how you know your butt's not working quite as well for you. And that might be either part of your pain or part of the reason why you might be able to get pain again. You want your butt to work. It's back there, you carry it around with you, you might as well use it. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody from that? Perfect. All right. So next thing is that whenever we talk about how we want here to stay nice and healthy is that we need to strengthen here, right? And so sometimes that means that we want to use both front and back, right? We're cylinder. Cylinders are much stronger than like a pole. If I'm just using my back, I'm going to wear like a pole. If I have a pole sitting next to like a cylinder shape, which one's going to stand there? The cylinder, right? And so we need to strengthen ourselves like the cylinder, okay? So what you're going to do, you're going to be on your hands and knees, okay? If you have where you can't put pressure on your knees, get a nice pillow, okay? And then you're going to try to make sure that your trunk does not move. And then you're going to raise one arm up and then the other arm up. You can make this harder by stretching yourself out farther. One arm up, the other arm up. It looks super easy. It's really not. If you keep that trunk nice and still, not let it shift side to side as you raise, then you're really using front and back muscles through here. Also, do you think I want your butt working that much through this? Not as much, actually. No, I don't want your butt working. Because you know what your butt can do? It can help you stabilize your trunk. Then do your abs have to do as much? Mm-mm. But when you're up and moving, your butt has other tasks it should be doing. You need your trunk muscles to stabilize you. And so that's where that differentiation comes.
There's a body move when you're down on your hand, and you're stretched out with your hands down, and you raise one leg and one.
The bird dog, I know. So she's asking
That sort of does it, doesn't it?
She's asking about this one. That will use your butt. I'm actually not as big of a fan of that exercise. I would rather you just move your legs or just move your arms. You know why? Anybody have an idea?
Something about your back.
Yep, you're more likely to curve because there's two moving parts. you're also counterbalancing yourself. And so the middle part doesn't have to do as much. Well, part of the reason why everybody does that is to make their core work, right? Well, if I counterbalance myself, does my core have to work as much? No, sure doesn't. So it's harder to do this or this than it is to do both. Do one and then the other. Make it 2 separate exercises, and it will work different parts of your core for each one. It's a common exercise I see all the time. Just break it up, makes it so much more bang for your buck.
I think it's much easier to break it up myself.
It makes it easier as far as like moving parts wise. And it's also easier to be able to control for it. And you usually get more bang for your buck with it. So, recap of how to keep your back doing well is that we want your butt to work with your core. We want you to have stability through here, movement through your hip, okay? That butt raise exercise, the bridge, that was one of the main ones for that. And then we also want your trunk to know how to use and move as a cylinder, have that stability through it. And this is more of a rotational plane because I'm making one side move and the rest of my body has to stabilize against that rotation. Okay? You can do this hands flat or on your fists, whichever way, I don't care. And same thing, have enough padding for your knees, if that's an issue. Okay? And then making sure that you're not moving your trunk as you do it. And the more that you stretch yourself out, the harder it makes it. Okay? And so, as an overall recap, back pain doesn't always necessarily equal mechanical, chemical dysfunction. Sometimes it can be just our back protecting itself. Sometimes it can be mechanical or chemical dysfunction. Okay? But it's hard for us to delineate which one it is as medical professionals, human beings. And so I always think that we need to convince your body to start moving better. Okay? Then we move you, we stretch you, we stabilize you. Then to keep it away, we get that butt working, your core working more, we get you stronger. Does this all make sense? It's a pretty logical progression once you think about it and you break it down that way. It makes sense. Let's make sure things are moving, let's stabilize, let's strengthen, let's move more. How many people learned something today? Sweet. I love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me.